Well, hello, and thank you for joining me for another Alex on Tech and ITY TV video interview. Today, I'm joined by Fernando Castanheira. He's the Chief Information Officer at Riverbed, the leader in AI ops for observability and data acceleration. Fernando, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Alice. It's great to be here. I'm Fernando Castanheira. I'm the CIO here at Riverbed. I lead our global IT organization and also spend a lot of time working with customers and peers on how CIOs can scale AI, modernize operations, and connect technology performance directly to business outcomes. That's what we're all about. Before joining Riverbed, I was over 2 decades at JPMorgan Chase, sitting on the other side of the table. So consuming quite a bit of technology and products over the years, both in infrastructure, application development, et cetera. So bring a lot of experience to the table and really love to have conversations with our customers and peers and continue to drive innovation forward.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for taking the time. Now, you've been visiting Australia this week, speaking at the IDC and Riverbed Observability Summit 2026 on Wednesday, and we're here to discuss the changing role of the CIO, AI in detail, and more. And I know you just gave us a little sort of a short version of what you do at Riverbed, but can you please remind us of Riverbed's mission and the value it offers to customers globally in 2026?
Yeah. So Riverbed's mission is to help organizations see, understand, act, and truly what really matters in their digital environment. So it's really around providing visibility and then being able to create actionable insights to get value and to get noise out of the environment, et cetera. In 2026, that means visibility across networks, applications, cloud, end user experience, combined with AI that doesn't generate insights, but enables action. It's really about the actions, right? Our platform brings together AI apps, digital experience management, and data acceleration. So customers can operate complex environments with confidence at scale, with various workloads, and effectively tie IT performance directly to productivity, revenue generation, and customers' experience. That's what we're all about.
Now, Fernando, you've been CIO at Riverbed for a while now, and as you just explained, a couple of decades of experience on the other side at the bank. Now, how has the actual day-to-day work of being a CIO changed in the last 3 to 5 years? I mean, 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, AI as we know it didn't exist. Now it's taking over everything. So how's that changed in the last 3 to 5 years? And what's taken up more of your time? What's fallen away?
Yeah, I mean, so I think one of the biggest thing shifts is the CIOs moved from running IT efficiently. It was all about uptime, is things running or not, people carry around beepers, et cetera. Like it's all about reactive operational focus. But now we're kind of running IT efficiently to enabling the business strategically. Like how do we kind of add value to the business in terms of making the difference in the outcomes of the business. 5 years ago, much of my time was really spent on infrastructure stability and cost control. Today, more time it goes into enabling AI adoption, of course, like it's kind of everyone's top of mind these days. Partly with the business on growth initiatives. I mean, how do we take it from A to B to C in terms of being able to leverage technology to achieve those things? And translating technical risk and performance into business language so executives and boards can understand it. What's fallen away is the idea of the CIO being primarily an operational caretaker. We really haven't seen it at the table now, and reliability still matters. But at the end of the day, it's about the foundation, not the finish line. We're there to enable the business as much as we can.
Now, Riverbed's own research has found that 62% of enterprise AI initiatives are stuck in pilot or development. And I've heard of similar stats when I talk to people. Some people are saying, from an MIT study that 95% of these projects
Yeah.
never seem to get off the ground. So that's, 62%, 95%, whatever it is, that's really a striking number. So from what you've seen, what's the most common reason why these projects stall before they reach production?
We've seen that the survey shows that, and it's execution. I think we definitely where things fall apart. I mean, in my experience, most AI projects don't stall because of the models. They stall because the environment isn't ready. What do I mean by that? Those combinations include fragmented data across cloud, on-prem, and edge. If you think about it, one of the biggest things around AI and kind of being able to train your data, train your models on the actual data that you need to train the models on. And right now, because of the shift to the cloud, there's stuff in the data center, on-prem, on the edge. That's becoming more and more of an issue, of a challenge. The second thing is infrastructure bottlenecks that create latency and predictability, right? You have quite a bit of latency. There's tons of amounts of data moving around that AI creates. That creates another issue. And then just lack of visibility, what we're playing, right? Lack of visibility into performance on workloads and things that are happening in the environment. So just between all these things, without observability and performance assurance, organization cannot trust AI in production yet. That's where some of these initiatives kind of fall apart.
Well, there's also been a lot of talk about AI models themselves, but as you were just explaining, I mean, the real bottleneck is often infrastructure and performance. The data all over the place. Things are not set up for AI to fully take advantage of it. So, can you talk us through what that looks like in practice? What breaks when an organization tries to scale an AI workload across a hybrid environment?
Yeah. Great question, Alex. So AI workloads are extremely sensitive to latency, right? Data movement and variability. In practice, what breaks is the data pipelines crossing hybrid environments, network congestion between clouded data centers, inability to see where the delays are introduced end to end, right? You need to have the entire picture there. Without deep observability and acceleration, which I'll talk a little bit about that as well, performance degrades. And suddenly the AI initiative that worked great in a lab, it really fails at scale. One of the products we just announced, we're pretty excited about. We're getting a lot of great reactions from our customers. A product we call Data Express, and the sole purpose of that, using proven technologies to move large scale data from point A to point B. What I mean by that, well, if you're a large bank, insurance company, whatever it is, you want to create a foundational model around and train your AI data on it. If data is spread out across different environments, you need to bring it somewhere and put it all together. So we have a product that will do that and reduce not only the cost, but also the timing, which is important, 10x. So something that will take, you're talking about like petabytes a day, like 40 petabytes, 50 petabytes, something that will take, let's say, 10 months will now take 1 month, or, 10 hours, 1 hour. So lots of great reactions around that product. And I think that's going to help solve some of these issues around the data placement, data movement, et cetera. We're pretty excited about that one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the customer reaction tells you the story. And of course, you're obviously listening to those customers. And when they say, well, we'd like you to do this or that, or I wish you did this, I mean, that's the best R&D because, you're solving pain points and customers are using your products in ways that maybe you didn't necessarily envisage. So I mean, I always love to hear what customers think because they're the ones who are putting it into practice.
Exactly. Exactly. Absolutely. And seeing is believing. And like we're getting, like I said, we already have a few pilots going on. And like every customer I talk to, I can ask the question. So what's your biggest challenge around the AI and initiatives? And they say, well, data movement. And there's all use cases, at least the customers I've been talking to, they tend to be the larger banks, insurance companies, et cetera. They're definitely struggling with that. So we're excited about that one.
Now, when you think about observability as it exists today, how would you describe the gap between what most enterprises are doing with it and what's actually possible? Because often, you find out people are only using 10 or 15% of the capabilities, and there's a whole stack that's not being used.
Yeah. So we've been on, and this is exactly kind of aligns to our vision and kind of how we kind of changed our strategy over the last 3 years. If you look at the market, and this came out quite a bit in my discussions in Australia, there's a study that says one of our, on average, enterprises have an average of 12. I think we interviewed like 1,200 people, technologists. 12, they have an average 12 observability tools. That's 12, right? Across, something like 9 vendors. Actually, because I talked to a lot of very large companies, the largest number I heard was something like 80, which is kind of crazy. So if you look at kind of where we are in terms of our platform strategy, we realized that kind of early on. We kind of set a vision around creating this unified platform that kind of goes across all these different silos that are available today. And you can use our platform to go across endpoint, applications, network, etc. So we're very proud of that. But in terms to your specific question, most enterprises still use observability to react faster. Okay, that's great. But I think you want to do is actually get to the next level is actually prevent the issue, right? So like the best thing to do is like not to have the issue and make sure that you in a very secured and controlled way, you're actually resolving issues before they even kind of appear and the user has to deal with it, et cetera. So the gap is moving from silo tools to unified platforms. I just talked about that. From dashboards, there's, like every one of those tools I talk about, they have their own dashboard. You need like this big operating rooms where, you have operating centers where you have all these dashboards so you can figure out what's going on in your network. So to more like decision support. And then from alerts to autonomous or semi-autonomous action, meaning like using AI, agentic on agentic. And we're kind of, we've doubled down on that. You're going to see a lot more new announcements from us shortly around our agentic and where we're taking that. Very excited about that as well. That's where AI apps can change the game. We're going from like very active and taking out, I'm talking about tons of one of our largest banks. I think they took out some like 20% of their tickets. And this bank, because of the size of it, number of tickets kept growing, issues everywhere. They couldn't keep up, hiring tons of people. By just going in there and doing some of the simple stuff and automating some of these automations around reducing tickets, if you start doing 20%, I think they're now up to 40%. It's a big business value impact in terms of not having to deal with that. Not only are you kind of reducing your costs on the operation side, but you're actually making your user a lot more productive. It's all about it. Technology should be there to enable users to do their jobs and to continue to move the company forward and not to impede them from what they need to do on a day-to-day basis. So we're pretty excited about where we are with our strategy as well.
Yeah. Well, when you get all these alerts all the time, it sort of tends to just become noise. And the most important ones, without the
Yeah.
correct tools, can be missed. And, people become complacent. And, all this
Yeah.
shouldn't be happening in the world of AI and allowing you to
Yeah.
be proactive. And, you've talked about observability becoming a kind of commercial intelligence. I mean, it's not just AI chatbots that can answer whatever questions you want, but actually having commercial outcomes. So, can you give a concrete example of how performance data, say a 1 second delay in an app, can be traced back to a revenue impact or a change in customer behavior?
Yeah, no, there's tons of those. That's kind of what some of the wow moments when we kind of relate some of those use cases to our customers in terms of what the impact could be and could not be. For example, take a 1 second delay in the customer facing application. When you're talking to customers now, important, your revenue generation side of the business, right? With the right observability, you see that delay where it delays originates, the network, the cloud service, the endpoint, the database, whatever that might be. You correlate that delay with the user behavior, like abandoned transactions, for example, and then you can quantify the revenue or productivity impact because you now have that data. You know exactly what happened, why when there was a missed opportunity there. You can kind of bring it all together. That's when observability stops being an IT tool and becomes a business intelligence tool. I mean, another example is one of the kind of main use cases I hear all the time. Every company, mostly large companies, have call centers agents that are dealing with customer interactions. One of the unique features of our Eternity tool is that we actually are able to uh, measure and track performance on applications. I'm not talking about changing any code. From the end user perspective, we have this concept what's called business activities. We're able to actually measure what a normal business activity, meaning like how the application is being used, retrieving a customer record, whatever that might be, that particular application does. And then being able to measure what normal looks like, and you have kind of things that are going on that are spikes, but be able to react to that, to alert, to identify what the issue is before it becomes a real problem and affecting, hundreds of users and thousands of interactions with the customers. That's just one example of many, and I think the ability, which is kind of unique to us, the ability to kind of manage and understand how applications is being used and track their performance, it's key. It's kind of, once people understand kind of what the power of that is, I see a lot of more advanced customers kind of enabling dozens of applications really. And this is when we get kind of the application developers into the mix. And all of a sudden, I was just talking to network administrators or end user and help desk. You actually ask application was, because I kind of manage large applications myself at one point at JPMorgan Chase. And traditionally you buy these APM tools that are very, very focused on the application itself. Is your code clean? Is there something, causing delays? But it's not just the application that matters, it's really the entire interaction. So you're sitting there as a user. Maybe the application is humming. It's nothing wrong with it. But then is it the endpoint device? Is it the network? Is it the VDI? Is it the location? So what matters. Once you be able to provide that, very realistic data to whoever owns the application, then you have something there that you can kind of, hey, let me work with my network team to optimize that network because it's not working. It's not delivering what my application needs are. Yeah, so very exciting things there.
Now, some CIOs are ring fencing 30 to 40% of their team's capacity specifically for innovation and transformation work. So, a couple of questions. Are you one of those CIOs? And how do you protect that time from getting swallowed by day to day operational firefighting?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You have to, right? It's like you need to continue to innovate. At the JPMC we had like what we used to call folks that focused on kind of running the bank or like changing the bank, right? So that's kind of where innovation comes in. You change in the bank, and you always need to have somebody make sure that the shop is running. But like, and I was more always more kind of lean towards my different roles I had at the organization, more towards let me change the bank. I want to really make a difference. I want to innovate. But as a CIO, you have to kind of balance it too. And the only the same way to do that is by reducing operational noise, automation, AI ops. So the more kind of you take out of people's plate in terms of doing their day jobs and like being allocated to reducing, resolving tickets, et cetera, then you could spend more time on innovation. That goes for the business as well. If it was, I think what's going to happen with all this AI stuff, it's going to impact every single part of an organization. We're looking at ourselves internally from finance operations, HR operations, sales operations. There's still quite a bit of tedious manual work that we need to be doing, and those folks can be then allocated to doing more innovative, customer-facing roles, et cetera. So we're pretty excited about that, but I think it's about kind of measuring that balance and yeah, keep the shop running, but at the same time keep innovating and pushing the ball forward.
Well, it's a competitive world and competitive market. I mean,
Yeah.
AI is everywhere. Everyone's been talking about it. Boards are pulling CIOs into their strategy conversations earlier and more often, particularly around AI and automation. I mean, you can't escape everything that AI claims to be able to do and that it's actually doing. I mean, last year, people were talking about the coming agentic AI era, and now we're seeing it. It's being implemented. So,
Yeah.
are you finding that board members are really asking better questions about the tech than they were 5 years ago, or are they, despite all this activity, are they still catching up to where people like
No,
yourself are?
no, 100%. I think our board asks every single time. So what are you doing with AI? Because they have
Yeah.
other our board has other companies under their management as well. They go, oh, this company's doing that company's doing that. Yeah, absolutely. They ask for it, and they ask how AIs could create a competitive advantage. What risks are there with automation? Our resilience is our digital backbone. They don't need a lot of technical detail, but they expect clarity, confidence, and business alignment. From our perspective internally, we kind of, we're running this, across the company. We have a steering committee that we've pulled together and really focus on three areas. I think the low-hanging fruit everyone started was the code development. So we kind of have that going. We've enabled our developers to kind of, get more productive with existing tools. We kind of kicked the tires with a couple different ones. We're settling on a couple. That's going really well. We actually measuring success, the productivity. Are we using it? And this stuff is not cheap, as you know, Alex. The second part is like, how do we kind of make everybody in the organization more productive? So we went out and kind of, because we're a Microsoft shop, we made a deal with Microsoft on Copilot, and now it's not just about like buying the tool, it's enabling people. This stuff is not, straightforward. So how do we make sure we spend the time in enabling our entire organization to leverage Copilot to make their jobs easier? I mean, I've probably gotten more compliments on that project than anything else since I've been here because people, a couple engineering leads, et cetera, they tell me, oh, I used to have to spend hours after my workday looking at my emails, and I get a summary, which ones are important, and respond to it. Unbelievable productivity. And the third part I was just talking about earlier is around kind of how do we kind of enable our and we just went through an ERP transformation, which is I think from a timing perspective is great. We kind of went to a single platform around NetSuite and Salesforce to kind of manage our entire business. We just finished that like a month ago. So now we're going to layer on top of that, leverage some of the AI capabilities to kind of make operations better and more efficient than they are today. So we're pretty excited about that.
Now, you talked about your own research finding that 62% of enterprise AI initiatives are stuck in pilot or deployment, and I spoke about how you've got stats from MIT that 95% of these AI projects are failing. So clearly, there's a tension between moving fast with AI adoption. Boards are pressuring the staff want to move things from ground up because they also are using AI themselves, and so you've got this tension between moving fast with AI adoption and making sure the underlying infrastructure actually can support it. So how do you balance these two pressures internally as the CIO? Who wins when speed and reliability collide?
I mean, at the end of the day, you have to have reliability. Reliability always wins in the long term, but speed matters to stay competitive. You can't just ignore the other, right? But I think it needs to be reliable. If one of the things I see with AI, quite a bit of the data that comes back, it's kind of not real, et cetera. One of the things that's good in our space is the observability data that we're collecting. It's real data. So we layer AI on top of that. We're not using internet data. We're using our customers' own performance data. So we know exactly what's going on. We train the models against that. We're not, we don't have a lot of false positives. You hear all these stories you hear out there in terms of some of these projects that are going on where the data doesn't make sense, the answers are wrong. So the good news for us in the business we're in, we're kind of collecting data at scale, not, at scale that's real, not something that's out there in the internet. So the balance comes from starting with visibility, scaling with confidence, automating where trust exists. Like, you need to have trust. You can't just automate and, like, blindly. I always recommend to our customers, you start talking about agenting and all that. Start slow. Start with the level one support, more technical folks, level one, level two, maybe then go off to the broader IT organization, maybe engineers, developers, and then eventually enable users also to kind of do their own stuff if they needed to. But a combination of those things. So when speed and reliability collides, the answer is better observability, not choosing one over the other. I think we need to kind of balance those two.
Yeah. Now, you were in Australia this week for the Observability Summit. So, what did you hear from enterprise IT leaders in this region? And are the challenges and priorities different from what you see in other markets?
No, they're not. They're very, they're all very familiar, very similar globally. AI scale, hybrid complexity, skills pressure, right? There's a lot of training that needs to happen. But there's a strong focus here on from what I heard the last few days around resiliency, cost efficiency, and user experience. Like, how do we make sure that if you're doing AI, you kind of focus on these three things. So Australian CIOs are very pragmatic. They want the AI to deliver very quickly, but not at the expense of stability or trust. So everything comes back to how do we make sure that we're not enabling the wild wild west, so we can control our destiny here and make sure that we are enabling some of these AI advanced AI capabilities, but we're managing trust and control and resilience. So we're very similar.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it would make sense. It's just interesting to see sometimes if some regions are ahead and we're catching up, or Australia's famously an early adopter of technology. So it's always interesting to see from people who are on the outside
Yeah.
for their views on how we're going. And well, it's good to hear that we're up there with the rest of the world.
Yeah, yeah, you're not behind.
Yeah.
You're actually ahead. I think how many hours? About 14 hours ahead of us.
Something like that. Yeah, I like to say to Americans, we live in the future, but now multi-cloud is the reality for most large enterprises now. In fact, some of them are multi-AI agents, depending on what they're doing. But of course, you have situations where, like you were saying, you're a Microsoft shop, so it just makes sense to use Copilot because it's there, it's part of the system and the platform, and it's all backed by OpenAI in this case, which good to see OpenAI and Microsoft competing because each of them, forces the other to
Yeah.
offer better products and services. And of course, you've got Gemini and Claude and all the rest. But having multi-cloud can create these blind spots. So where do you see the biggest visibility gaps in multi-cloud environments, and how is Riverbed's approach designed to close them?
So first of all, we when we set out in our vision of strategy 3 years ago, we kind of had this in mind. And AI was already out there a little bit, right? So we knew that was going to happen. The hybrid's been around for a long time. Half our customers is their stuff is in cloud, on-prem. Everyone's kind of hybrid, no matter what size company you are. So we kind of knew that. We designed our platform vision and the products that and the platform that we've delivered over the last 3 years with that in mind. So we're ready for it, right? But the biggest gaps are between cloud and on-prem environments, between infrastructure metrics and user experience, and between performance data and business impact. So Riverbed's approach is to unify those views rather than add another silo. So how do we kind of make sure we don't really care who your data is? In fact, I'll tell you, I'll talk a little bit another product that's getting a lot of attention within this platform, NPM Plus. Right? There's a lot of companies most companies I talk to. I mean, I usually ask two questions. Are you using ServiceNow? The answer is 99.9% yes. Are you doing zero trust? And the answer is 99 yes. So some companies are not aware that with zero trust, that your implementation, the product you're going to implement, and your traditional NPM products that sit on the network are going to lose visibility. Why? Because you have this NPM appliance sitting in a data center that traditionally had visibility across the enterprise. Well, just the nature of how what zero trust is all about, it closes you down. So what we decided to do is take a lot of the knowledge that we have over the years, because we have an NPM product for many, many years. We still have that. We're porting that technology and capability into an agent, the same agent, this unified agent that we have, where we can add functionality that's part of our platform. And NPM Plus, what it does, it gives you that visibility back. Now I'm sitting here on the user side, being able to kind of see out, including like a hybrid cloud, on-prem, network application. And not only that, be able to do like, which is pretty cool, packet capturing, right? So now we have a whole new bunch of users, not just network nerds, looking at packet capture. We're trying to put some intelligence on top of it and kind of explain when you're looking at a packet capture, what that means. If you're like a level one, level two, they never saw packet captures. So pretty excited about that. We're getting a lot of great responses on that and early adoption on that. So that's something else so that we're excited about as well. So take a look at that if you haven't yet, if you're doing zero trust.
Yeah, well, I'm sure people can find out more at the Riverbed website on that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've got materials and other information about it. Now, if you had to pick one metric or data point that best illustrates whether an organization's digital infrastructure is actually healthy beyond uptime, what would it be and why?
Look, at the end of the day, right, what really matters is the end user experience consistency, right? So, I'm a user. I spend, I don't know, 8, 10 hours in the office. A lot, probably a big portion of the time, I'm either on a call like this, on a Zoom call, a Teams call, or I'm using an application all day long. I'm a call center agent. I kind of look at a screen. So at the end of the day, that's what matters. So you're there as you make sure you want to enable the products and services and applications, make sure that people can do their jobs. So our job in AI ops observability is to kind of make sure that we're providing visibility around that, but more importantly, reacting and kind of make sure that from a platform perspective, we're enabling our users to make sure that they're delivering, solving problems in a proactive way. That's what it's all about.
Now, a lot of CIOs describe themselves as the bridge between technology and the business, but some are pushing further, arguing that the CIO should be driving revenue outcomes directly. So, where do you sit on that spectrum?
No, absolutely. So like I think CIOs and that has changed by the way over the last maybe 10 plus years where CIOs actually have a seat at the table. Where before like maybe they work for a CFO and you got the manager's got a little bit of time to them. So now it's a good thing that we have a seat at the table. It's very important in my belief. So they should be accountable for enabling revenue, not only sales targets. And Dave, don't my CEO, don't get any ideas. I'm not going to get sales targets, but they should be there to enable revenue, right? When technology performance directly influences customer experience, productivity, and speed to market, the CIO is absolutely part of the revenue conversation. Now, we're there to make sure that our salespeople are successful, making sure they have the right tools, they be able to create quotes fast, all those things matter in finance to close our books. I mean, at the end of the day, that's part of running a sound operation and a sound business.
Yes, well, it's nice to see the CIO is treated the same as other C-level executives. So it's good to
No,
see.
for sure, for
It's an
sure. I
important
mean,
part. I mean, they're vital.
and you're seeing more and more of that, which is great. And I see it, even large banks, small banks, CIOs having a seat at the table. To me, it's important because you need to be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Some banks, some large banks, technology is such a big part of it. Like, you really, some CIOs would say we're really a technology company in disguise as a bank. I mean, the massive amounts of the investment in technology and the how many developers they have, how many technology, it's amazing. So yeah, it's technology is a big part of most enterprises.
Well, I mean, I've spoken about this with other C-level executives that I've spoken with. We all remember when the internet first started, there was an internet guy, there was an internet division. And then everyone realized, well, hang on, this whole business is an internet business. And it's the same with security. Everyone has to be fully up to date with their security because one receptionist or one worker who's not really au fait with what's going on is then pushing a button that launches malware across the system. Of course, you got to have your security software to look for that. But then we have 0 days and all sorts of things. And now, of course, every business has to be attuned to the way that we're working with AI. I mean, every business is a tech business, as you were just saying. We're a bank masquerade, we're a technology business masquerading as a bank. So it's funny how that's all happening.
No, for sure. Look, at the end of the day, I think it's important to get visibility right, right? So if you don't know what's going on, and particularly now with all these AI models and you have agents calling agents, so if you don't have visibility in your environment, it's going to get harder. It's the environments are getting more complex, not simpler. So important to have a good observability AI strategy so you can manage all this evolution. And it's going to change dramatically. It changes every other week. I mean, it's hard to keep up with it. The advancements, the amount of investment from these hyperscalers. I mean, what is it, $800 billion, and the chip event. I mean, it's crazy. So it's important that organizations are aware of that and prepare for the future. You do that, from my perspective, if you don't have a good AI ops and visibility strategy where you kind of understand what's going on in your environments and capture that information at scale and being able to act on it and make sure prevent issues and organize yourselves around that, it's going to be a problem. So at the end of the day, it's really about that. How do you prepare for it? The future is here now. This is stuff is not. It's happening. The train has left the station. It's not. You got to get on board, or if not, you're gonna lose some of these outcomes. Yeah, it's exciting, but it's a little scary. But I think it's manageable. You just need to kind of get ahead of it, and as a CIO, make sure your organization is ready for it by having some of these tooling available, observability. Make sure you kind of invest in the platform and continue to do that.
Well, that's good advice for enterprise tech leaders watching to know what they should be getting right, what they should be focusing on, because if you don't start somewhere and you don't have the end in mind, I mean, if you don't have a plan or a direction, you'll end up anywhere except where you want to be.
Exactly. Exactly right.
So, what else should we know about Riverbed that we haven't already discussed that you can sort of
Yeah.
briefly remind us that we should know
Yeah.
about?
So, yeah. So, but first of all, Riverbed's been around for a long time. They were founded in 2002, so over 20 years. Right. Started out in the acceleration business, transformed over the years into observability. And the last 3 years, we kind of went like this in terms of product announcements, observability, IAOps, end to end from eternity with endpoint, DEX experience, end user experience, network, performance management, applications. We're there. And if you look at our website, you'll see our story there. We're happy to talk to anybody that wants to get a debrief. Yeah, we kind of made that transition. That's why we didn't believe kind of single-threaded tools is the way to go. It's going to be a manageable. The data is not kind of cohesive. You can like define patterns, all those things. We have over 6 million endpoints under management now in the cloud. So that data gives a lot of kind of insights in terms of what's going on around the environments and be able to kind of identify ones what I call fix many. Like these issues, how does companies are dealing with the same issues? Is it corrupted DLLs, whatever it is, and you be able to kind of identify those quickly and be able to perform on that. So, we kind of come a long way. We're well positioned in this market, and we're a leader, as you hear from some of the analysts out there. And yeah, we're excited about our future here. We're just getting started. We're going to double down on AI and continue to evolve it.
Well, we're down to the last couple of questions. I always like to ask if you could please share a memory of your first personal computer.
Oh, I do remember, man. I was like, I remember I used to get like, I think it was a called PC magazine. It might have been even
Yeah,
before
no, there
that,
was a
but
few
I,
of them like that. We
I
had them
got
in
enough
Australia
money
too.
to,
Yeah.
I got enough money to buy, and I remember, like, I brought it home. I was, what is that big thing? It was an IBM PC XT. I think it might have had 20 megs of memory, maybe not even that. I don't remember the
Well,
exact
hard
number.
disk, yeah, would have had 640K of RAM of memory.
It's 40K RAM. It had the two floppy drives in the back, the five and a quarter, so we could copy from one to the other if we needed
Yeah.
to. Yeah, and that was the early days. That's kind of got me excited about computers. I'm a computer science major. Yeah, I always liked it. I mean, I remember back in the day, AI has been around and talking about it for a long, long time, but it really became reality just in the last few years. But the AI has been out there for a while. I think the advancements in chips and the processing power has made a huge difference there. So it's exciting. I mean, I've been through a lot of transitions over the years from, the internet when we first started, like, yeah, this is like it's a school, how are we gonna add value? Can we use it on the business side? You kind of just went like this, the adoption. Cloud, right, was a big thing. Client server computing, been through all those transitions. To me, this feels like, a hundred times maybe bigger than that. This is like if you're in technology, you should be happy because this is a big transitional, big set of changes that are happening as we speak, and it's happening at breakneck speed. And you should embrace it and try to see how do you make it better for yourself, your business, whatever it is that you do.
And my second last question is to ask if you could please share some of the best advice you've received in life to help you get where you are today.
Yeah, I mean, and this probably heard from a couple of managers, similar message, but you should focus on outcomes, not like tools or cool technology. Like you should also kind of understand your role, what you're doing, and understand the business, kind of what the mission is, the objectives, and then you try to figure out how do you kind of enable that business to have better outcomes, as opposed to kind of just creating cool stuff that doesn't really move the needle in terms of the business performance and all that. So it's like you keep that in mind as a technologist and what you're there for, and kind of do that. And that's kind of advice that I've gotten over the years, and I think it holds true today as well.
Well, I was saying before that I've heard that you should begin with the end in mind. So that's kind of like a similar kind of viewpoint. If you haven't got a target as to where you're going, you'll just end up anywhere, which you'll get somewhere, but not necessarily where you want to be. So I think
Exactly.
that's
Exactly.
crucial advice there. So Fernando, what is your final message to the viewers, listeners, and readers?
Yeah. By the way, thank you for the time again. AI is not a technology shift; it's an operational one as well, right? The organizations that succeed will be the ones that build trust, visibility, and resilience into their digital foundations. That's where real transformation happens. So, like I said earlier, let's embrace it, adopt it, trust it, careful, like crawl, walk, run, right? But it's here today. You should be embracing it, learning about it, and see how you can, internally, I'm hearing getting emails from different operational areas. Hey, Fernando, this is great. I'm doing now A, B, and C. I need a couple more licenses for my other folks. Like that's what it's all about. Like you enable, you're also unleashing things that were traditionally done by IT organizations and technologists to now the broader organization. Yeah, we got to put some guardrails around it, but it's exciting because now you're able to do a lot more things by a wider part of the organization than you were before. Yeah, it's exciting times. And thank you again, Alex. Appreciate the time.
Well, Fernando Castanheira, Chief Financial Officer at Riverbed, it's been a pleasure to speak with you and learn about what you do and how you spent some time in Australia with the Observability Summit. And I do hope we can speak again in the future. So thank you very much and
Yeah,
bye bye.
my my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.